Hey people, it's me, Guy, California Times. Friday, August 6th. I've been trying to find the right moment, the right way, the right manner to evolve or move or keep this thing rolling here. Um, and I haven't exactly figured it out, but this is it. And hey, I've got some things to say today, just kind of lightly. I think next week things are really gonna. Oh, God knows what's gonna happen next week, Guy. You don't know. Talking to myself. As this author, Evan Pritchard, author of No Word for Time, describes the language, the words, djan Wanishi. Wherever you go, may the way be beautiful for you. Taking a deep breath with that, but I hope, Evan, that sounds like something close to correct. Ijajan Wanishi, Algonquin, of the Unami variation of the Algonquin people. Had a lot of fun reading some books of Evan Pritchard's. Evan's that come through okay. Is a professor at least in 1997 he was. That's a little bit. It's kind of a long time gone. Once upon a time, he was the professor of Native American history at Marist College and the founder of the Center for Algonquin Culture. I wanted to read a couple of things here because I think it's all appropriate as I try to figure out my own path through how to go with the flow, how to just push forward as if you didn't give a doggone about any quote flow, except you got to do it, whoever you are it, I am it. We got to do our thing. No word for time. Something, something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. How's it go? Starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line. The man comes and takes you away. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Ulnuck. We the people. It was the richness of Algonquin philosophy which inspired Thomas Paine, a student of native languages, to lay the foundation for which much of what is unique about U.S. government. It is interesting that the U.S. Constitution begins with the common Algonquin expression, we the people. Ulnuck. This is no coincidence. Charles Thompson, an honorary Delaware, that's a Lenape, a member of the Algonquin family, and student of the Lenape language, was the constitutional secretary at that time. It was his brilliant appendix to Jefferson's notes on the state of Virginia, which became a blueprint for the Constitution. I feel that the U.S. Bill of Rights also shows considerable influence. Hey, crow person, up there in the tree. I've got a big oak tree in my backyard. That's another thing. Hope everybody has a tree in their backyard. It's the same story the crow told me. It's the only one we know. Like the morning sun, you come, and like the wind, you go. he's talking about dream time. He's talking about this sense of, there's some real stuff going on here on the planet right now for us human beings. It's nothing to be dismissed lightly about the abstraction of the Cartesian world and a time clock. It's about some real effed up situation that we've inherited from our ancestors, and we haven't quite re-evolved or emerged out of our stuck individually and collectively state. 1997, Evan writes, with the rate of clinical depression doubling every 5 years in America, many alarmed cultural psychologists have studied and written about hunting and gathering societies. It is under these conditions that the human brain evolved. And in hunting and gathering societies, now he says, for the most part, depression is non-existent. Well, of course, we don't know exactly how much depression there was, but I think there was something about living in such a tight little world instead of the separateness of modern civilization and the internet that kept human health like a lot firmer, or breathe deep. I'll tell you a couple of stories. A couple of hours ago, I was walking through town, and I'm walking back. I go past the little Catholic school. Look up ahead. There's a bunch of trucks lined up, 6, 7 trucks, big 20-foot bobtails lined up back to back, and all this activity. And I soon decipher that I'm looking at a film set, which this happened before. And I was walking away, this lovely, attractive woman, t-shirt, is walking my direction, and I was already past the film thing, so, and she had just big block letters, un-F, UCK, excuse my language, the world. How was that? What'd you say? On the planet? And I said, yeah, good idea. And then I saw, that she had a little walkie talkie, and of course she was, and I don't know, I just thought, we're all just so caught up in it. Is that her life, to be happily creating mass media crap for where do you begin? Un-F the earth. Where? How? Who? Who do you blame? Maybe she knew. Time. No word for time. How do you become a hunter-gatherer? I don't know. I'm unvaccinated, and I almost had a job. It's been a desperate month in some levels. It's been a very cool month. For a while, I just ran out of money because of bad planning. Things got really out of hand. I was like hung up on asking anybody for help, and skin of my teeth that got by. And I had this job all lined up. Looked pretty good. I've got a job right now 2 days a week, the bagel company, and I think California Times deserves some energy. But the new job fell through because I'm not vaccinated. Yeah, I'm one of those people who, how can you be so selfish, guy? You're killing people. Last year it was, you are a racist, and this year you are killing people. Oh, I'll read a couple of things I wrote from the New York Times, and I'll find that article. July 28th, 2021, New York Times. CDC officials were persuaded by new scientific evidence showing that even vaccinated people may become infected and may carry the virus in great amounts. Perhaps scientific evidence that perhaps, that's almost a conundrum, what would you call that? A paradox? Scientific evidence showing that perhaps, well, anyways, I'll go with that perhaps, even similar to those in unvaccinated people. All right, listen to that. The CDC says scientific evidence that even vaccinated people may become infected, which is obvious to everyone now, and may carry the virus in great amounts, perhaps even similar to those in unvaccinated people. In other words, as you as a vaccinated person, God bless you, might get the virus and spread it without knowing. I might get it as an unvaccinated person and spread it without knowing. But we both can do that. And unvaccinated people like myself are making their decision based on their own conscience. Joe Biden, voice of reason. Quote Joe, "We have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated, and they're sowing enormous confusion." We have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated, and they're sowing enormous confusion, says Joe, the great uniter. He told reporters on Tuesday. The more we learn about the virus and the Delta variant, the more we have to be worried and concerned, says Joe. Okay. We've got to be worried and concerned and basically live in a state of fear. And that seems to be going to be the state of things for a while in the way this planet is right now. And there's only one thing we know for sure, says Joe. If those other 100 million people got vaccinated, talking to me, 100 million, I guess that's 220 million have got vaccinated. I don't think the number's that high, but I guess they're maybe talking about adults. We'd be in a very different world. Now that is the truth for sure, Joe. The more we learn about the virus, the more we have to be worried and concerned. The Delta variant, and then there'll be the Omega variant and the Epsilon variant, and that will keep coming. If those other 100 million people got vaccinated, you, me, responsible for killing people, we'd be in a very different world. Well, all right. Am I overacting here? Yes, we'd be in a very different world. Yes, yes. Even the good vaccinated people can spread the disease. In the meantime, people are losing their jobs. People are not allowed to have jobs. 2,700 workers are the headlines in San Francisco will be without a job unless they get themselves vaccinated, who are city workers. The experimental virus is still awaiting FDA approval. And, you know, you hope the FDA is doing a real deep investigation. But yet, how do we know what unfolds and what levels of evidence are you willing to accept? Just the voice of authority, your doctor, the fact that everybody else is doing it, and the fact that it shows like the vaccine seems to have empirically shown to be, when you compare it with all the people who are getting the variant, who are not vaccinated to work. But are there other side effects in this brilliant technology that tricks our body to detect it, and that now we know we're going to have a booster every 6 months? And there's the factor of the $1 billion profit, and what are we ignoring? And what is the everyday status of these people who are now dying? So in this San Francisco Chronicle of Friday, July 30th, what's that, about a week ago? 2 deaths in the Bay Area, 32 deaths in California. And you don't know, like, age group, what level of physical problems these people had. It's just a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I think we're all allowed to ask questions. I think to demand society all uphold the same opinion, and if you don't, be subject to a different rule of law. I think there's something wrong with that. I'm going from No Word for Time to a buddy of mine, Roger Williams. This book, Roger Williams was a 17th century New Englander, originally from England. He's the guy who helped found the little Rhode Island colony. He had to escape from the forces of conformity and oppression in the Puritan Massachusetts. He went to Rhode Island in the middle of winter to avoid being banished back to England, where he probably would have met death. He explained, having made covenant of peaceable neighborhood with the sachems and natives around us, and having in a sense of God's merciful providence unto me in my distress, called the place Providence. He named this little village on edges of Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island, Providence, which grew to be the capital of Rhode Island today. I desired it might be for a shelter for persons distressed for conscience. Williams had a teacher back in England. Is this working still? It's still recording. A guy named Koch, or maybe I'm mispronouncing it, perhaps Cook. Koch rescued Williams from a life that he was born in the wrong class of, wouldn't have gotten to the university, wouldn't have gotten too high perhaps, but he was a smart young man, and Koch got him off to, can't remember now if it was, I think it must have been Cambridge. Koch's comment, we tend to take for granted, but it's pretty nebulous now, his idea was that every Englishman's home was his castle. At the same time, Queen Elizabeth's declaration that she sought no window into men's and women's souls. Koch advanced the idea that the English Constitution, not simply the Magna Carta, but all the traditions of the rights and privileges of England, prohibited arbitrary power. His challenge was to attempt to build a new society where people of conscience who disagreed with the authorities could live and express their own spiritual conscience. That spiritual thing might be involved in terms of what we take as medicine in this world. There was a fellow named Bacon. I can't remember if that's Francis Bacon or what. Another contemporary. Bacon was one of these forces of liberation thought, and so was Coke, even though the two of them disagreed with each other and were like rivals back in England. And Coke ended up in the prisoner in the Tower of London. But Bacon warned us about this reliance on logic. And I think what he's talking about is logic in quotes. He says, logic now in use serves rather to fix and give stability to the errors which have their foundation in commonly received notions than to help the search after truth. So it does more harm than good. Empiricism gives birth to dogmas more deformed and monstrous than the sophistical or rational school. He called for experimentation. He said that truth is the daughter of time and not of authority. After he died, philosophers and scientists began meeting in England, and they formed something called the Royal Society, which is one of these foundational events of the beginning of so-called scientific thought, but it was all based on this skepticism. William's idea was that the authority of a government derived from its citizens. His views were still maturing, but his basic principles already informed the Providence government with vitality, a vitality alive enough to flirt with chaos. The town allowed far more individual freedom than elsewhere because of William's developing concept. His idea was too preliminary to call it a theory, that the authority of a government derived from its citizens. William's views on liberty, both individual and religious, also informed the decision to build, or rather not to build, a church. In Providence, no such meeting place would be built for a half a century. People worshiped in their homes. It's reflected unusual, if not unique, individualism. I got to get the California Times TV website up and running. I think this week is about time. You know, the governor's race, the recall, California. I had a dream last week. I was like, one of these, wasn't really exactly a nightmare. It was, but there was a fire coming, and it was coming over the hill, and I could see it from wherever I was, and must have been San Anselmo, but the dreamlike imagery was just a beautiful wooded hill, and there was a fire coming over the hill. And I came down to try to warn people, and they were like sitting like clinking their glasses in a backyard. Lots of people and clinking their glasses, and you could see the fire coming over the hill. And they were just like, they were just clinking their glasses. They were just at the party, and the fire was evident. Anyways, I'm strongly in for voting a yes vote on the Newsom recall. I don't really even care who is elected for that 1 year period until the next election, the next phony election. This is one opportunity to be a real election. I mean, I wish that I had the resources or the wherewithal to have been a candidate, courage or whatever it had taken, but it's all right. It's okay. And I feel like one of the lessons I've been needing to learn for a long time is how to trust in everybody, or trust in this chaos, or give positive energy to the chaos in order that the chaos, won't be too negative. So I'm thinking about that Ijajan, what was it? Wanishi, Evan? Probably could be thinking of about 100 other very exciting things to talk about, picking up some other newspaper, immigration issues. Do not come, said Kamala Harris when she was in Guatemala. And she was probably, I wouldn't say shamed, but the Guatemalan president said, what about your policy? Looking for the roots. What are you telling people? So Kamala said, do not come to the people of Guatemala, to America. I don't think her words were heard, frowned upon. The media didn't really cover it very well. Do not come. And in the meantime, corruption does go on in Guatemala. And I know that there are indigenous people out on the streets today. And here in America, we don't know what an indigenous person is. You've got a civilization that has no connection to nature and earth and roots. And I think that's what I'm trying to be a voice for, or root for, or believe that we don't have to settle into being a world of indigenous and non-indigenous people, and the poor minority indigenous people of the world, we must save them and help them. I don't feel that that's, not that it's not our mission, but it's, our mission is to actually attempt to live like we are. Thousands of Europeans crossed the line in the first couple of 100 years of our invasion, and crossed the line and married natives, became semi-indigenous, saw that there was a wisdom, or maybe even a beauty, that we were blind to with our worship of this European model that we inherited, that we're still dealing with in the year 2021. So I don't know, the power of music, positive thinking, tired brains. Took all I had in me. I'm kind of tuckered out today. All right, cheers, people. Thank you. Say hello to me on the street. Give me a chuckle or roll your eyeballs. But thank you all.